Good morning, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. In today's update, it is day 5 in the search for survivors in the deadly high-rise collapse in Surfside, Florida. At least 9 people have been killed and more than 150 are still unaccounted for. This is rescuers work around the clock and family members are holding out hope. The Miami-Dade fire chief says they have found some voids or air pockets in the rubble. Our team is on the scene with the latest. And overnight, President Biden ordered airstrikes near the Iraq-Syria border. The administration says the airstrikes targeted Iranian-backed militias in retaliation for recent attacks against the U.S., troops and facilities in Iraq as well. Iran is already vowing revenge, saying it will continue to target U.S. forces. And nearly 25 million people nationwide are under excessive heat warnings this morning. The Pacific Northwest is seeing record high temperatures. Portland hit a record 112 degrees. Seattle reached 104. 7 states in the West are in the midst of a heat wave, and we could see more record highs today. And families are growing more desperate for news on missing loved ones in Surfside, Florida. Police escorted some family members to the site of the building collapse yesterday. Now, some say they're holding out hope, while others say they're looking for closure. ABC's Victor Okendo has the latest on the rescue efforts.
This is our command and control and planning tent.
ABC News getting an inside look at the base of operations for Miami-Dade Fire Rescue's Florida Task Force 1, an elite unit that's been deployed to disasters all over the world, but this one hit home.
What keeps you guys going?
For us, this is personal. Team members know folks, individuals that are trapped in that debris, that were victims in this event.
The process is painstaking. Relatives asked for DNA samples to help identify those found in the rubble and for unique characteristics for the missing, such as tattoos and scars. Jake Samuelson, whose grandparents Arnie and Miriam Notkin lived on the 3rd floor, says that his family has gotten 16 phone calls from the apartment landline only to pick up and hear static on the other end.
We're just trying to rationalize what's happening here, and we're just trying to get answers.
Earlier this morning, Robin Roberts speaking with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Chief Andy Alvarez about the search and rescue efforts.
We have the latest technology as far as rescue equipment. We got DELSAR systems that can hear. We got underground sonar systems that can detect victims. We brought in huge cranes to help us lift big slabs of concrete, and obviously that's going to aid us so that we can get inside and again find those voids that we know might possibly be there and rescue those people.
Victor Okendo, thanks for that. And we're expecting officials to hold a press conference in just a few minutes. We will bring that to you live when it happens. In the meantime, relatives have been asked to find DNA samples and describe unique characteristics like tattoos and scars to help identify those found in the rubble. Stephanie Ramos joins me live now from Surfside with more on that. Stephanie, right now more than 150 people are still unaccounted for. So as you're talking to these families, what sticks out to you most about how they're reacting, given it's still a waiting game right now for so many of them?
Well, Diane, you said it. It is a waiting game, and we've been here for 5 days now. And when we first got here, we could feel that hope from a lot of the families. We could see the hope, and a lot of that hope has turned into desperation. Standing right here, we've seen the families come out of the hotel behind me. That's where the reunification center is being held, and that's where they're getting their briefings and getting information that they need. And it's hard to watch. It's painful because you see these families walking by here. They've got red eyes, and you can tell that they've been crying. The grief is written all over their face, and all they can do is wait. And yesterday, as you mentioned, these families had an opportunity to go to the site of the wreckage and see it, and it was painful, as you can imagine. And officials clearly trying to comfort these families and do what they can to give them the information that they need and also tend to them so that they know that officials here on the ground and the search and rescue teams are doing everything they can to find their loved ones.
Reaction to hearing the fire chief say that they found some air pockets in the rubble, because that not only can help rescuers navigate and tunnel through the rubble to try to find people, but it also creates some space within the rubble where they may be able to find survivors.
Exactly, and that's what gives these families hope, knowing that there are these pockets, that there is possibly a chance. And we've heard from officials for the last couple of days saying that this is not a recovery effort. This is still very much a search and rescue effort because, as you mentioned, there are these pockets that they found, and there is a chance. So they are not giving up hope. And families, day in and day out, they are coming here, they're walking down the street, they're going to the hotel, and they're just around, waiting. They haven't heard from their loved ones in days. They know that they were in that tower, and they're just waiting for that information. But knowing that there may be pockets gives them just a little bit more hope.
And Stephanie, I know yesterday you spoke with a family who just found out that their family members were killed in the collapse. I want to play a clip of that for you and then just get your reaction.
You now know what happened to your sister and your nephew.
Right.
Tell us what you learned today.
Well, everything that I had, all the pain that I had, in a way went away because I didn't have the certainty where were they were alive or dead. It's not what I want, but if it's God will, well, now I know that they are okay in heaven. So I'm okay with that.
Stephanie, I know you talked to a lot of families, so is it unique to hear this? It's not every day that you hear from someone who just found out they lost family members, that for them that helped to ease their pain because of how difficult it was just not knowing.
Exactly. And what we've seen here is that families are afraid of the unknown. But with that particular family, you just heard from Nicole Ortiz. Her sister, Anna, was identified yesterday, and her nephew was also identified. There are 3 other family members that were in that same apartment with Anna and Luis, the nephew, but they have not been found. But you know, it's interesting because we spoke with her a few days ago, and the emotions were completely different. She was afraid. She was afraid of the unknown. She didn't know whether her family, if they were trapped and in pain. But now knowing, we saw a sense of relief, a sense of comfort come over her, telling us that at least she now knows what exactly happened, where her sister is, where her nephew is, and they said that they didn't get an opportunity yesterday to go to the site and see the wreckage firsthand, and they told us last night they don't need to. They said, we know that they did indeed pass. They are content with the memories that they have. They went on and on. It was beautiful. They went on and on talking about how Anna and Luis and Frankie, Anna's husband, how they had this happy, beautiful life, and that's what they walked away from yesterday. That's what they walked away with, rather, yesterday.
Stephanie Ramos in Surfside, Florida. Stephanie, thank you. Meanwhile, there are some new questions about the cause of the collapse. The city of Surfside released documents from 2018 estimating that it would cost $9.1 million to address issues raised in a report that found, quote, major structural damage to the concrete below the pool deck, including, quote, failed waterproofing. Let's go to Jason Borden, a structural engineer and the regional director of O&S Associates, for more on this. Jason, thanks for being here. I know your firm conducted a survey of the building in 2020. What did you find? Did you find these same structural damage issues that this report seems to show?
What I saw while I was on site at that point was very similar to what was described in the 2018 report.
What in the survey from then and what you saw caused you concern?
No, I would say that, quite the opposite. What I saw didn't cause any concern. It was very typical for a building of its age and its location. And, we specialize in restoration and repair. That's what we typically see when we come to a building at the client or the owner's request, is to come in and address these issues and get these things taken care of.
So given what you saw then, what was your reaction to see what happened last week?
Complete shock. I mean, flabbergasted, almost unable to compute. Being an individual that spent my entire career working with buildings, seeing this happen is unfathomable.
And so based on your expertise and the survey, all the information that's come out so far, do you have any idea what could have caused this?
No, I mean, many people have put out suppositions, and right now with the information that's available, we can't pinpoint where the initial problem started. If it started at the top of the building, if it started at the bottom of the building, there's been suppositions to both locations. As to what caused it, the industry will be finding out over the next weeks and months as the investigation continues.
And now there are some new concerns over whether the building's sister tower might have similar issues. What can you tell us about that?
I believe they're referring to the Champlain Towers North building and the Champlain Towers East building. I know that both buildings have underwent repair programs recently, similar to what Champlain South was beginning this year. So I believe that the South Tower, the East Tower and the North Tower are in sound condition and are safe.
And so are there any systemic changes that you think could be made to ensure something like this doesn't happen again?
I don't know if there needs to be. It's the rules are already there that we need to maintain our buildings in sound and safe condition. I'm not familiar with what else could be done to enforce that at this point. I think everybody's going to go forward with more attention to the detail, what they're seeing, what they're doing, and when they're doing it going forward.
Jason, any advice to people who live in or around high-rise buildings like this who are feeling unsafe right now?
This is an entire anomaly. You speak to anybody in the industry, anybody that's familiar with design and construction, this is a complete anomaly. You look through the history of the United States and our buildings, and you would be hard-pressed to find something like this happening in the past. Your buildings are safe. You need to maintain them. You need to take care of them, but your buildings are safe.
All right. We appreciate your time today so much. Thank you for your analysis and for those words of reassurance for some people who may be feeling a little unsafe today. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
We appreciate it. And GMA3 anchor TJ Holmes has been in Surfside throughout the weekend. Today he spoke with Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz about the building collapse and how it's affecting the tight-knit community. Let's listen.
You all allowed the families an opportunity to go down to the rubble. Why was that important?
You know, Mayor Daniela Levine Cava and the officials here really felt they were having both disinformation spreading virally through. There are doctored photos going out that made it look like the pile wasn't actually being actively worked on. But more importantly, I know in my conversations with some of the families, that both through faith traditions and because the need to be closer to their loved ones, this was really unprecedented. Bringing families to a disaster site while the search and rescue is still going on is unprecedented. But they've been threading humanity through the bureaucracy here because this is such an unprecedented tragedy that's just not comparable in American history.
And you represent this district, sure. Yeah. This is home. This is all. I've learned so much in being down here about how tight-knit this whole community is.
Yes.
You know what? How is everybody doing? Not just the families, but the extended family to see something like this just doesn't happen. This is unimaginable.
TJ, this is the stuff of nightmares. Literally, these people were sleeping in their beds. And so it is the stuff of nightmares. The building came crashing down with them in it in an instant. And this is a tight-knit community. It is, and everybody knows somebody, not very many degrees of separation. I have friends who have family and friends in the building, several different families. So it's like you have a little piece, more than a big piece of your heart torn out of you.
Okay, Congresswoman, we're holding on to hope because we have to, and we've seen miracles before all over the world when people are being pulled out of rubble. But is there anything you have been told, any indication, any real concrete, a bang, a voice, anything concrete that gives us hope that there are survivors in there?
I had a chance to sit down with the resting teams of search and rescue yesterday and asked them that question, and they are continuing to say that we believe that there's still a chance that, like you've reported, they've pulled survivors out many hours later, not usually, and that's why proximity for the families to the pile was important, because they get to begin to really embrace the gravity of the situation, the enormity of it. But as long as they're saying, and they still are, that they're going to engage in search and rescue, then there's hope, and that's what we have to hold on to. Even one person found alive would be such an incredible blessing.
That's paramount right now. That is the priority, trying to find a survivor, trying to save lives. But the questions are coming about that building, and we're starting to see reports that have come out. I'll ask you, this is a relatively young building, and buildings just don't do this. Is there any indication, anything you've seen that points to negligence so far? I know it's early, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot to know for sure, but is there anything that suggests that there was something negligent or somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do?
Well, clearly something went terribly wrong, but it is not responsible at this point to start speculating. I'm going to be meeting and be briefed by the NIST, the federal agency that makes decisions about whether to go in and do a full investigation of a disaster like this, with structural integrity issues. So they'll have structural engineers and forensic engineers, and they'll look to see, how this could have happened and whether it impacts the kind of changes that might need to be made at the federal level to building construction and codes. We're going to get to it's going to be an all-of-government approach to getting to the bottom of this, but let's focus on potentially rescuing survivors first.
There's a sister or companion building to this one. Some people have decided on their own they don't want to be in it. Would you recommend they get out of there? Would you be comfortable in that companion building?
I've been asked that question many times. Mayor Charles Burkett, the mayor of Surfside, had his building code people go in and do a review. Didn't decide to evacuate, but gave people the option of leaving, and we're also providing for those families who will need a place to stay. They left it to the comfort level of the families, but we're assured the families that there's nothing imminently dangerous about staying in those buildings. But if it's understandable if folks would want to make absolutely certain, given the similarity, if not almost identical construction of that building.
Congresswoman, last thing here.
To say nothing of the buildings, just like it dotted up and down the coastline here.
Last thing here, Congresswoman, when you came up here to greet me, I put my hand out to shake your hand, and you wanted to give a hug.
I did. We need all the hugs right now, TJ.
You've been down here for several days and going through it, and
it's really hard. It's really hard to look in the eyes of these families who just desperately want to be able to see their loved one emerge. This morning, I saw it on TV, not in person, going close to the site. One son was able to get a birthday card that they sent to his grandma. It was right there on the pile, and he was able to get it and had a picture of her. This is so deeply personal. The pain is going to be worse, not better. Remember, we still have 152 unidentified, unaccounted for people, and the death toll is going to mount regardless of whether there are survivors found, and the enormity of the pain that it's going to wash over this community even more than it already is imminent.
Congresswoman, we appreciate you spending some time here with us.
Thank you.
And again, conveying that message to our viewers as well, who their hearts and their thoughts and their prayers are with this community right now.
We got to be here for the long haul. When the cameras go away, this community is still going to need our support. And I know I and my fellow elected officials, local, state, and national, we're going to be here to hold them up and get to the bottom of this.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for being here.
All right, thanks to TJ Holmes and Representative Debbie Wasserman-Schultz for that interview. And you can see more of TJ's reporting later today on GMA3, What You Need to Know. We're also expecting a press conference at 11:30 Eastern Time that will provide us with the latest from officials in Surfside, and we will bring that to you live as soon as it starts. It's been over 6 months since the first COVID-19 shots were administered, and vaccination sites have been popping up at some interesting places around the world. We'll take you to a few of them, like this one at Dracula's Castle in Romania. After the break, stay with us. Welcome back. It's been more than 6 months since the first COVID-19 vaccine was administered, and since then, people have been rolling up their sleeves and getting vaccinated at some unique locations around the world, from stadiums to theaters to major tourist attractions. Take a look.
Both my first and second dose of Moderna at Disneyland, and I'm a huge Disney person. My sister is too, and it was so cool to get to go to a place we've always associated with joy and happiness to help really feel like it's the happiest place on earth.
We are from the United States, but we live in Brasov. I saw it on the internet yesterday, and I thought it's a great reason to come to Bran. We love Bran, it's beautiful, and we wanted to get the vaccine, so it was perfect.
It's important so that we can resume a normal life again, so that we're able to have as close to normal interactions with people as we had before all of this.
Foarte bună. I-am spus soțului drag, oricum mergeam în excursie la Bran, eu mă voi vaccina la Bran.
I got my vaccine at the Long Beach Convention Center. I ended up walking into the front of the Terrace Theater, which is the big theater complex. There's all these fountains out front. The last time I was there was actually when I was working for the Long Beach Opera, and I was attending an opera. So it was weird being in this still quiet. I'm sitting in this lobby, remembering that I was sitting in here checking ticket stubs, you know, just a few years before. So it was definitely a very surreal experience.
My COVID vaccination story is that I was actually vaccinated at Aqueduct Raceway, home of the Belmont Stakes.
Meanwhile, at New York's Aqueduct, yet another pre-derby tune-up, the famous Wood Memorial gets off to a fast start.
And it turns out that a racetrack is a great place for a vaccination clinic because there's all this space at the track where people are milling about between races, and you can use the teller booths for all those clerks who take all your personal information. So it didn't take long, and boom, 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 I had my vaccination, no problem. I was looking down at the final straight of the racetrack, and I couldn't help thinking about the most important or most famous race that ever took place there, which was when Secretariat set the record in 1973 for the fastest Belmont. When you actually see the front straightaway and realize how far he was ahead, it was just amazing.
Un cadre exceptionnel qui fait un peu oublier pourquoi on est là, puisqu'on est quand même dans une pandémie mondiale avec des drames qui touchent beaucoup de familles. Donc c'est que du positif avec un cadre formidable, un peu de légèreté dans tout ça. Un grand honneur.
Pour être honnête, ma recherche a été essentiellement liée à la rapidité pour trouver un rendez-vous. Après, cerise sur le gâteau, c'est le château de Versailles. Mais la première motivation, c'était la proximité du créneau au niveau horaire et date surtout.
We are at the Natural History Museum where we just got vaccinated. What an amazing location to have this monumental event happen. How did it feel to be vaccinated under the whale? Good. Good.
Making my appointment at the American Natural History Museum was really special. It's a place where I spent a lot of time as a kid. I took a lot of dates there in high school. If it's ever boring, then there's tons of taxidermied animals and interesting things for you to talk about. And so, yeah, it was really cool to get my shot underneath the big blue whale. It had this 6-foot Band-Aid on its left fin, which felt like a really strong show of solidarity.
And our thanks to all those people who rolled up their sleeves and shared their stories with us. Now, any minute now, we're expecting another update from officials in Florida on that deadly building collapse in Surfside. We're going to bring you that live as soon as it happens. Right now, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. An investigation is underway after a deadly hot air balloon crash in New Mexico. The balloon hit a power line and the basket fell about 100 feet to the ground, killing all 5 people on board. ABC's Sureen Shah has the latest from Albuquerque.
The balloon just hit the electrical pole and they blew up.
This morning, the urgent investigation into why this hot air balloon crashed into a power line, detaching the gondola from the balloon's envelope and plummeting to the ground, killing all 5 on board.
We have a fire to where I believe a hot air balloon crashed over at Central and Unser.
This video around 7 Saturday morning showing the deflated balloon falling, landing on a home about a mile away.
No one got the fire extinguisher? And he just went there and sprayed it off, and they turned off the propane on it.
The victims, Albuquerque locals. Pilot Nicholas Molensky, Mary and Martin Martinez, a retired Albuquerque officer, and educators Susan and John Montoya. Their daughter Stacy telling us they were about to celebrate their 21st wedding anniversary.
They loved everyone they met. That's just who they were. They were just love. I mean, they exuded it. That's who they were.
New Mexico is famous for hot air ballooning, home to Albuquerque's annual Fall International Balloon Fiesta. Albuquerque school district officials saying overnight they gave the ride as a gift to Susan, a beloved member of the community and the district's vice principal. While officials would not comment on the crash's cause, they say strong winds can be a concern.
Investigators had been focused on this area behind me. That's where that basket landed. This week, they tell us they'll be looking into factors like weather and the pilot, just trying to piece together exactly what led up to the country's deadliest hot air balloon accident in 5 years. Diane?
All right, Sureen Shah in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Thanks, Sureen. And that does it for this ABC News Live update. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. And we're still waiting for that press conference with an update on the deadly building collapse in Surfside, Florida. We're expecting that any minute now. We will bring that to you live as it happens. I'll also see you back here again at 3 p.m. Eastern with Terry Moran for the breakdown. Stay safe, everybody.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.